Can you imagine if we just recorded an episode of the Hammer Project like right now?
Why imagine? Let's do that.
Let's do it.
I'm not ready. Sorry.
Wouldn't people do
No, I like to prepare.
We'll get ready.
Have you listened to our show?
Yeah, man, you're definitely the odd one out there, buddy. But wouldn't people just like freak out? Wouldn't they be like, oh my gosh?
So random.
It's so random for these guys to do another one of those.
This episode of the Hammerbarn Project is called Unprepared.
Welcome. I'm Brendan. I got Frank here with me.
Hello,
as
hello.
always. I got Martin over here.
Sup?
We've got microphones in front of us. It can only mean one thing. Let's break down. Or I said
You
breakdown.
did.
Yeah, you've been
I'm
slipping. It was
betraying
last
myself.
time. It was you were just saying credit where credit's due.
Oh, I
and
keep
like-
saying credit where credit's due, don't I?
Yeah.
It's getting too long in the tooth. What are we into our 60s now? In episodes, not like age.
I thought this was an age
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. You're looking at me when you said that.
Yeah. I don't quite know what to say.
Bluey? Anyone? Or
Excellent.
Why not?
idea.
Shall we bark down an episode
Hey,
That's
there
way
it
of
better.
the Australian children's television show
Picking
Bluey?
up my slack.
Yeah, nice.
Well
Yeah.
done. Yeah, it's
Thank
a
you.
mouthful.
Yeah.
You've been practicing?
No, I just listened to the
You
show.
just- You could just talk.
It's that
Yeah.
French thing he was saying before about preparing. Like, I don't know what that is.
Prepare. One day.
It's all the rage in Europe.
So I hear.
Over to you, Marty.
Oh yeah. Would you like to? Do you have any bare bones for an episode for us to talk about?
Yes. Okay, this one, obviously a horror film,
Obviously.
Yeah.
completely. But I'm going to keep it a bit light because the episode's a bit heavy.
Whoa.
So I think in terms of a
Heavy.
horror film, this is probably Shaun of the Dead.
Nice.
And to
yeah,
paraphrase that bit of that film in which he tells the whole story of what's about to happen in that film in the form of what they're going to do going out and having a pub crawl.
Genius.
So, okay, I'll tell you what's going to happen. We're going to start on the porch with a brandy,
Nice.
down a blue bandit, have a large zebra and chase it with a small cheetah. Then we're going to jump in the car. We're going to grab some snacks, head round to the old tin shed, ask if they have any medium-sized cheetahs, knock off another brandy, then see if we can get into the bathtub for D&M, and then we're going to finish up on the porch with sisterly love. Let's make it a double.
Excellent.
Not bad.
Bam.
And just
Bam.
wait for this all to
blow
blow
over.
over.
That's what it was. Yes, that's it. But what do you usually say at this point, Frank?
Well, this is a funny way to say this episode of Bluey is called Onesies.
It is.
Oh my.
Strap yourselves in.
Yeah, it's really one of those.
It's one of those ones that we knew he had to do,
Yeah.
and every time we would sort of come up, we're like, I'm not quite
Maybe
emotionally there.
I'm not-
I'm not ready for that.
Not really.
And then we were called out on our last episode by someone's name who I
Yes.
totally have not looked up and don't remember.
Well, we'll get to that.
I don't
Yeah.
do this pre-parring thing.
Yeah,
so,
no.
Yeah.
We'll leave that to that guy.
But yes, so what is actually an episode about? Long not seen sister to Chili, Brandy, comes around to the house to see the family. She brings some presents, which happen to be onesies. And then for some inexplicable reason, Bingo becomes possessed by the onesie. My other bare bones was going to be the mask. Jim
Oh,
Carrey's
nice.
mask. Like
Yes.
that would have been, that was another potential one. But yeah, so and it's about them being chased around the house by Bingo, Crazy Bingo as a cheetah, and kind of finding out why Brandy's a little bit uncomfortable in that space, and maybe why they haven't seen her for about 4 years.
Let's start it off with the absolute linkage. Now, have either of you two seen Bluey's Big Play?
No,
Stage show?
we
Can't
haven't.
say I
So,
I think this
how
was-
much spoilers can you give us for that one?
Basically, the entire story of that play revolves around Chili's relationship with her sister. She doesn't appear in the show, but there's a number of phone calls and you hear voiceovers.
Okay, sure.
And that was the very first mention of Brandy is in
Yeah.
his sister's name. Now,
Right.
I think in various episodes, there's photos on the wall. There's little clues like that. You mention of Chili's sister, but that was the first time she was given a name and indeed a voice sort of thing. And it was shortly after that play had sort of done its tour of Australia. So when this episode dropped, all the people who had seen it had just gone, it's her, it's happening, it's a thing. So, apart from the actual content of the episode, this had, an amazing sort of cross-medium
So you were more
link.
prepared than us, but it wasn't you who did the preparation. It just was happenstance.
Does it unpack the stuff from the episode in the play itself? Is that apparent?
Yeah, it's almost like the play is a precursor to her visit.
Right.
So in terms of
okay.
there's it starts out quite hostile on the phone between them, and then it lends to basically the crux of the story is done by Bluey and Bingo and about how sisters should treat each other.
Wow.
And then Chili just sort of has this moment. She's like, I need to call Brandy. Then it's, hey, we should catch up. Scene.
Oh man.
So when this happens, everyone's like, oh, we knew about this.
Wow. I got to see this play. Is there like a recording of this play?
I don't know. I know it's come back to Brisbane recently, which might mean Australia, other cities in Australia get another run because it has done. It's been all around the world.
Yeah.
But
generally, the way you have to see
being
a
an uncle
play,
will only get you so far.
is it's recorded by the fact that people they pretend to act it out.
Okay.
On, like they repeat it
on stage, even.
on stage physically, and
Right.
that's how the recording
And
of the play works.
you are in the same space watching
them do
recording.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, recording. It's the same every time, so it's like
It's like a recording.
What's happening?
We're saying go see the play, damn it.
I understand that. But is that a weird bridge too far for someone without any kids to go and see? Like, is that
I
are
don't
people
think
going to be
it's
looking
not
at me
like
going,
Disneyland
"What's this
where
guy
you
doing
need to
here?"
be accompanied by a child.
You certainly don't. I went the heck to Disneyland when I was in America. That's for damn sure.
Oh, press the chalk it up button.
Yeah.
We've had one already.
Yeah, there we go.
It's early.
I've been to America, everyone.
I have to say though, when I first saw this episode, and you've got the opening shot, and there's somebody walking up up to the front porch, up the front thing, and Orange, heel a dog.
Yep.
My heart suddenly jumped because I'm like, is this a future story about Bingo coming home to the family house or
it's
something
future
like
Bingo.
that?
They do look alike.
Future Bingo, because
That's cool.
that's it's dealt with in the story that they look similar, and they do in design as well.
Yeah.
They've got the same sort of slightly tilted snout.
Well, that leads to the part of the opening exchange is, you look
exactly.
like your dad,
You're
Bluey.
like-
Oh, what?
Oh, what?
Only for Bingo, say, and Bingo looks like, and then it's just that pause,
that
and
moment,
Chili
which
calls
the
it out.
realization,
And there's a very little subtle moment in that where she goes, looks like you. And she says that smiling. And then almost immediately it turns to a down face where she goes, I realize what I've said there.
Yeah.
And then it's quickly sort of brought back by the gifting of the onesies.
It's so the whole tone of this episode is so real in its just so hard to navigate. The reality of how hard the situation is to navigate is just portrayed so well.
Yeah.
That whole first, oh man, there's so many just hit sequences in this whole.
Marty's just turned his page of notes, and we've only just started. There are lots of notes here, people.
That was a bare bones bit. Preparation. Luckily, here's one I had prepared earlier. But I think just because it starts out, we get Brandy coming up and sort of saying, but then it's kind of revealed who she is and the fact that she has some trepidation being there because she goes, it's okay, Brandy.
Yeah.
Like, you got this.
Psyching herself up. Yeah.
Psyching herself up for what she's about to do. And then we see the girls and mum dancing in the other room and doing the dance, and the musical interlude happens. I love Bingo's got her tongue sticking out.
Yeah. And there's a little
cute.
bit of a hint and a precursor to the theme of the dance that comes out later in the episode. So you get to that whole,
Couplet.
foreshadowing. And
There, chalk it up.
I served that one to you.
But I reckon I didn't want to go straight. I wanted to stop in before we got to the conversation on the porch itself, because for me it's a real life of the doorbell ringing and somebody's coming to visit. And as a kid, how exciting that is. And that whole sensation. And for me, that kind of drives, because there's, what's going on with the adults in that scene, and then there's what's going on with the kids and the way they're interacting.
And there's a really realistic, anticlimax is too strong a word, but where they run to the door, Auntie Brandy's here, run to the door, open up, and she says, "Hi, girls." And they're like hi.
Hi. And
they're such polite, wonderful kids, but they're excited that someone's here, but it just, in that really sweet hi, they don't, you can tell that they don't quite know what to say or do, and they're not comfortable, but they're still excited. And there's so much going on in their little heads. It's really well done.
And it's, for me, also the idea of meeting other adults. You're sort of, there is this excitement because it's a new and different person, and you can tell them all the things that everybody else is sick of you telling them about. And like there might be this interesting sort of, but you're not quite sure about them because they're new and they're different.
And they no doubt would have heard some stories from Chili, even as she's teaching them the dance literally as she arrives. And based on the age, because there's the whole 4 years. It's been 4 years since they've seen each other. Bluey is established to be 7 at the time of this episode. She saw Bingo would be 4 or 5.
So Bingo would have been like a baby, if that, and Bluey probably too young to remember.
No, exactly. So there's a real setting of the timelines there.
And there's the because as well, it's in the physicality as well, because Bingo's actually holding Chili's hand for that conversation as well. She's kind of like, and there's even something that happens. I can't remember. I saw it when we did a sneaky watch through just then, but there was something about Bluey's physicality when she says the hi, and they just kind of do something with their hands or something.
This might be a bit of a tangent, but
we don't do tangents on this show. Never.
But it's interesting that meeting another adult thing that you said, Marty. There is that, adults and kids have that thing. Well, we're kids, they're adults. And so there's that line, and of course that has to be there because they're kids and adults are adults. They've seen more, and there's got to be obviously. But I think being an uncle now, I really remember being a kid and really feeling that divide, so much so that I feel like I could have benefited more in my life if I'd spent more time with my uncles and aunties, learnt more about them, learnt more about social cues and stuff with that. But I really, really felt that, that's not for me. And I don't know, I think maybe it set me back. And one thing that I try to do with my nibblings is just really, because I have that memory of not knowing how to connect with uncles and aunties. Nowadays, I'm just like, well, I'm going to do the hard yards. And I really try to ask them about things that they're interested in. I mean, it helps that I'm interested in a lot of the things that these kids are interested in, but
like free fruit.
Free fruit. Or just like, I don't know, Indiana Jones or Star Wars or and just go, now because that's from the episode 2, isn't it? Yeah, because I don't know, try and make them feel like that barrier isn't so strong that they can't connect. And I don't know. I feel like it's
potentially a generational thing as well. I don't know if back in the 80s that would have been, the expectations might have been different as well. But it's an interesting one. And I think in the scene itself, there's that really lovely moment, but it also separates them when they're getting battered by Chili's tail, and they're getting, and the girl's like, so cute.
And it works on levels.
It really does, because it's kind of like, it's one of Joe's classic things or the Ludo team's classic thing of something funny goes on while some more adult exposition is happening.
Yes.
So that's happening, but
it's physical comedy.
It's physical comedy.
They use it as something that the kids are just laughing and not really reading into the complicated thing that's being conversed. But also, it also works on the level of that's what kids are like when there is a pet with it flapping its tail in your face. So it's kind of like they marry that somehow really well. You don't get taken out of the moment that they're all dogs and they all have tails and this is just part of that universe. They're human dogs, but you still get to laugh at what kids are like around real tails. I don't know.
And it's
really
also
fun.
it helps them get away from that sense of nervousness or
Yes.
you know,
Breaks the tension.
breaking. Yeah. It's them breaking the tension for themselves by finding this thing particularly funny.
And it
it's
also
like
draws attention to a tail wagging, which is a cue,
happiness,
a giveaway in the show that these characters are happy, which is a handy tool to have when you're animating a character that they're happy, their tail wags, because that's what dogs do.
You mentioned for real life moments before, Marty. Happens a couple of times in this episode. Brandy and Chili are almost at that point of broaching, the uncomfortableness between them, the key subject. And then chaos happens, be they attacked by a cheetah or the kids that just interrupt them. Trying to have an adult conversation sometimes when there are kids around is damn near impossible because they just interrupt you at this most inopportune time and you're just like, we'll circle back to this. I've got to go deal with this onesie situation.
I think it's impossible to have a conversation.
Pretty sure.
Like with any form of adult conversation. It's just like, wow, what did I actually manage to get across in that half hour? Not a great deal.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
No, because it's every 3 seconds you're being interrupted or you have to see something. So yeah. I do want to take us back to that line that you mentioned, Frank, or the little exchange of just like, oh, she looks like, and then boy. Brandy has this realization, and that touches me as well because I think I look quite like, or Naomi looks quite like me, which is that funny moment of looking at someone who's how you remember looking in the mirror.
Yeah, wow.
That was a weird moment. She was a little bit younger, when just a little bit less gender specific, they're a little bit more neutral. I was just like, wow, I remember that's kind of what I used to look like when I was 8 or 9 or something in the mirror.
Crazy.
So that's kind of that's the interesting thing, number one. But the other thing is Naomi really looks like my sister.
Yep.
Right.
As well. 100%. I think there's a moment, Frank, you said when we were on holiday together, it's like sometimes we say, oh yeah, she looks like Ness and blah, blah, blah. And it's because, she's blonde and she's got about the same face shape. She's got my family face shape.
Yeah.
But you said, Frank, there was a moment where you were talking to her and you just went, oh, wow, that's Ness.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
For me, it was the eyes, right? And it was just, I can't even remember the conversation. And often those moments of clarity when you go, you look like such and such, they're nothing moments.
Yeah.
She just looked in a particular direction past me and I just went, yep. There it is. That's Ness, 100%. Like,
because there have been, times when we're walking around together. I think it's just like me, Ness, and Naomi, and they think that that's Naomi's mum.
Yeah,
you get along with that sort of stuff. Yep. But I want to take it back as well to the idea that in that moment, maybe the level I like to bring to it is Brandy realizes that Chili's had this reminder the whole time of her sister being there.
Right.
In the form of like, you just
Bingo.
keep on looking at Bingo and just going, that's, she's always kind of been there.
My sister.
Yeah. It's a mini my sister. And like
she's quite quick to say you.
You.
Like,
she knows, like she knows exactly.
I see this every day.
Yeah.
You see what I mean, sis? Such a connection establishing moment. And like, I don't have anything like that. Oh, I think that's such a cool image of you looking at your kid Naomi and just going, "Oh, I remember looking into a mirror and seeing similar things." Yeah. That's such an insightful observation. That's awesome. I don't have anything like that, but the closest I've got is when my eldest sister was getting married in Ireland, and this is in 2008, flew over there for the wedding. And the moment I got there, a lot of my mum's family who I'd never met, and my mum, her biological dad, I never met. He sadly passed away long before I was born. And the moment I saw mum's cousins and extended family, they looked at me and go, "Oh God, he's Eugene, isn't he? Oh God, doesn't he look like Eugene?" And my mum's birth father, and I felt like at home. It was this weird thing. I've never been to this country.
Yep.
I mean, I've always felt a little pang of Irish heritage, but to have real Irish people say, "God, you look like this guy. You're part." I felt part of it. I felt so connected. And so to say, hey, this person looks like you, it's such a really evocative way of establishing this connection that has been tested, I suppose, by absence, which is really interesting.
I do love Brandy's design though. We're talking about how you look. You know, she's got the tilty
similar
down nose.
yet different.
Similar yet different. I think it's not quite. I was kind of like, oh, did they do it? Because Chili's asymmetrical on the top.
Right.
So she's got one side of her head is one color and blah, blah, blah. And Brandy, you very easily see in that first shot that she's got two different colored legs. She does actually have two different colored ears as well.
Right.
But, you know, there's the niceness. And you can tell she's got a cute haircut.
The variation they give to family members in
dude.
this show. The subtle variation to make it similar but different and make them each unique and have their own thing, but obviously of the same family and the same breed and everything. They do so much with so little.
Yeah, you really do. Mom, it's happening again.
Oh, no, you really shouldn't.
Oh, man. That's so good.
It's like the transformations happening again.
I love
like
it's also
fed
that-
the thing after midnight.
There's a little beat of that, history.
Yes.
Yeah, and when the moment she
Yeah,
hands
about
over
to
the ononesies.
Oh, no, you really
Just
shouldn't.
yeah. And
Oh,
so
no,
there's that funny.
what's going on?
I'm
Oh, no,
seeing
she's
history,
probably grown out of it.
Japanese garden
Yeah.
theory sort of thing. I love that the title card thing is the empty boxes.
And there's a really cool
Yeah.
picture on the empty
Yeah.
box. I just got to see a good view of it now because Frank's got a massive TV
Yeah.
that I've never seen.
Frank, you
It's
would
just-
empty boxes empty sort of like toy boxes and things wouldn't be a recurring theme in your life, would they?
I have
You wouldn't-
no idea what you're talking about.
You're such a box keeper. Are you a box keeper?
I used to be.
You used to be,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
now okay.
Well, now I've sort of had to cull that a little bit and go, it's got to have artwork.
Sure.
Right? If it's just
Yeah.
got pictures
man.
of the toy,
That
just
makes
like
sense.
I've got the toy. I don't need pictures of it. I have it in front. But if it's got artwork, I'm compelled to keep it.
I could just remember if I can riff on you and
Please do.
your mum back when you were still living
Jesus.
at your
Here
mum's
we go.
place. The thing about that house that blew the things about that house that blew my mind is you were giving me something or lending me something like a piece of the technology or something, and you're like, oh, hold on, I'll just get the box. And you went and got the box. I'm like, you've kept the box. I couldn't believe it. And you knew where it was. This
Yeah.
is something I've never known where something was in my life. And also your mum, like, you go into a cupboard
Yep.
and there's a box with something written on it of the contents of the box.
Mhm.
And what's written on the box was actually what was in the box. that I found that unbelievable.
The one that got you mentioned that still sticks with me, and this is back in the day. This is sort of pre-mobile phone era, just about.
Yeah.
Where we all had landlines that we actually used.
Yeah.
And often you'd need to so-and-so's call. I need to take a message. I need to write this down. So next to the little table where the phone was,
Yeah.
there was a little scribble pad of paper and then just a cup full of pens. And I remember Brendan, as he was leaving one day, just looked and went, there's pens there. Because of course there is.
Yeah.
That's where you should put them. And I remember me and Mum looking at each other going, what is happening here?
I have never spent a day in my life in a household where something is where it should be. And I also saw this happen. I saw you and your mum do this. You'd go and you'd get something that you needed to use, and you knew where it was, and you went and retrieved it from the place it should be, and you used it, and then you put it back in that place. And I nearly died. This is something I'd never seen.
Look, as someone who lived with you for a brief amount of time, you know,
you poor soul.
can confirm, you know, the bowls of cereal that were half finished and left next to the couch because that's where you were when you finished eating them. I just went,
Look, I've come away. I won't say I've come a long way, but I've come some way.
come a distance.
A distance. Measurable. Somewhat.
I'm going to go back to Brandy for a bit. Brandy, of course, voiced by
Rose Byrne.
Rose Byrne.
Such good voice acting.
It's pretty interesting that you look up on the Bluey Wiki where it obviously mentions, Rose Byrne is an Australian actress. Best known for her voice in, it was something like, it was a really odd animation thing. And I'm just like,
Oh, okay.
was she in that? Don't know.
I saw that.
How is that the first thing that, anyone thinks of it? Because it's clearly not. I mean, this is Rose Byrne who's been in, what was she in, Heartbreak High back in the day?
Was she now?
She was. She was in...
Two Hands is where I would
Two
have
Hands
first,
is the big one
saw
from
her.
an Australian perspective. She was actually in Attack of the Clones.
Oh,
She was
really?
the Padme's handmaiden or whatever they call
right.
it. Her
Wasn't
not
Padme
the body.
Padme's handmaiden?
Well, yeah. There is
Spoiler
that.
alert.
She was in, I think the big one that broke her into the American market was Troy, the 2004 movie with
Gotcha,
Brad
gotcha,
Pitt. She was in
gotcha.
that. And then, of course, she's since exploded. She's got a new one coming out
Bridesmaids.
with
She's
Bridesmaids.
hilarious in Bridesmaids.
She's got a new one coming out with not Seth
I'm
MacFarlane.
not.
Who's the
I
other
don't look.
guy?
I don't look ugly, do I? When she's crying, like, no, I don't.
She's also in the new Ninja Turtles movie, which, as of this recording, basically comes out today in Australia.
Oh, okay.
Why are you here?
Right? Because the times clashed. I'll be honest. She actually plays the crocodile character in that, and
Wow.
I haven't seen it yet, obviously. But the brief I've heard on her performance was, all those times you've done stuff and people have said you have to sound American or you have to sound British. I want you to be full Aussie, as Australian as you can be. I'm very excited to see that performance.
Nice. Nah, she's a legend. Very talented.
Some amazing line deliveries.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get to them, aren't we? But we have to get through, it's happening again. And then, oh, hey, Brandy. And then my favorite line of the episode. Can you guess what it is? What about Bandit?
Where's Bandit? Leave him. He's gone.
Forget him. He's done.
Forget him. He's done.
Because it's such a transition. Because I was thinking when I was rewatching this how Melanie Zanetti when she's doing, then swap them around the way she's like the sweetness, the warmth in that sort of line, and the loving motheriness,
beautifully contrasted.
These beautifully contrasted by how quickly she
Hubby's gone.
Hubby's gone. I was like, completely written off so fast.
Not that I think Bandit complained too much,
No.
Dad, save me. He's like, he's just on the ground on his phone, just going, no, I'm dead. Rules are rules.
That is brilliant, but that is after the main chunk of the car scene.
Yes.
Do we go there? Do we go there
we're
now?
gonna go to car scene.
Holy moly. So funny. It's like this is where the horror movie really comes in. Like it's so creepy and just like but also little funny lines like, oh yeah, we'll stay here. Like there's plenty of food under the seats.
And there's music, but the thunk of the hand on the window.
Yep.
And that was kind of why we chose to do this episode now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we had.
Should we sneakily check our inbox now?
Yes.
I think we should.
Because it's part of the.
We've
Usually
done this before.
we leave it to the. We often leave it to the end of the app, but let's do it now because this is the reason why we're doing this app.
All right, so we've got a lovely big email here from Lauren. She is a mum of 2 crazy kids from the great state of Texas. Hey, you've probably been here, Brendan?
True, I have. Now, Lauren's from Dallas, I believe.
Correct.
Didn't get to go to Dallas.
Boo.
I drove in from Oklahoma. I went to all the way down south, and I had a contact in Austin. So I tell you what, though,
Please
now
don't.
or later with a couple of Texas stories. Oh, that kind of sounds like now. I found chocolate-covered potato chips. Like, you know how you get chocolate and you get little potatoey, crispy, like you get the salty bits in them. Salted caramel chocolate, salted biscuity chocolate. Yep. These were just like full-on potato chips, just covered in chocolate. Love them. Amazing. That's one of my memories of Texas. The other memory of Texas was driving through Fort Worth when it was bucketing down. Like I've not ever really experienced driving in rain like this. And I don't know, like Fort Worth, my memory of it was because I was just mainly passing through on the interstate, and the on-ramp, off-ramp spirally it's like I was 8 years old and I was told to design this with an unlimited Hot Wheels budget.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, let's put loop-de-loops in. And
the only pieces you had to construct it were the curved pieces, straight pieces.
It was insane. I'm sure that there's nothing like that in Australia. And I've driven on the highways and the freeways in Melbourne and Sydney, and these are serious cities, but there was nothing like that. I swear I thought I was going to die. It was like the middle of the night, bucketing down with rain. The only comfort was that I was listening to the Carole King's Tapestry album. Now every time I put Tapestry on, I just think of driving through Texas. But no, Texas rules. And I can't speak to Dallas. Sorry, Lauren, I didn't get there. Next time. But yeah, Lone Star State, represent.
All this is a funny way to say, yes, Brendan has been there. But yeah, part of the reason we are doing this episode today is that she referred to the hand scene where Bandit, sort of bang, it's like meant to be a jump scare type thing.
Yep.
And
So good.
she noticed that there is almost that exact scene verbatim in one of the Jurassic World movies.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing. I think it's Claire, the character's name is, and she bang, hand on the window. You guys need to get out of here, blah, blah, blah. She did sort of confess. She goes, look, I mean, Jurassic World, pretty recent. I've got a feeling that's been in numerous movies over the course of history, but that same sort of effect. But she's like, oh, that was an interesting reference. She thought
the car works really well as well.
Because
you're style.
You're focused on the people that are
small
in the
four-wheel
car
drive.
as well.
Yeah.
I think it just kind of links it back to that. That is the most horror moment when they're all in the car together.
Followed closely by the waggy tail in the
tail,
background.
that is so good. Yeah,
which got me thinking. I'm just like
aliens.
So you know how you put on a pair of
see
gloves.
the door open.
You put on a pair of gloves and all your fingers go into each thing. When Bingo has put on the cheetah outfit, her tail has gone into the tail part of the costume to actually, when a human puts on a costume with a tail,
it just goes flunk.
It just
maybe they got a spring in it or something. But I also I have to say, I love how disheveled Bandit is, and I love that he's huffing on the window.
Yeah.
He's just
the
he
fog,
just looks
yeah.
at the
And
fog
just
out the
accusing
window.
her, like, why did you have to get the onesie? I'm sorry, I didn't know.
She didn't know. That's one of my favorite lines from Rosebud.
Oh,
It's
boy.
She's so remorseful. It's like, did you give them the onesies? I'm so sorry. I didn't know.
Gemma Puddledyke. Sorry, Gemma Puddledyke was
Jemima
Puddledyke.
From what is it like?
Gemma in Peter Rabbit.
Peter
in the
Rabbit.
live action Peter Rabbit.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
That's supposedly the Rose Byrne reference that everyone knows her from. Come on.
The only reason I stopped talking about Texas is because I was completely removed from the conversation trying to figure out what that was. Because I knew I'd read it earlier today.
So going back to Lauren's email briefly, she does go on to say also she's onesies, as we know them, are called footed pajamas or footy pajamas, as they call them in America, or sleepers. The term onesies in the US apparently refers to that real little baby bodysuits with the snap buttons all the way down
quick
the middle.
access.
Yeah.
I get
which
that.
Which is strange.
Because onesies is definitely what they've been called in my family in recent years when all the nibblings have been wearing their onesies. I guess for me, onesies has kind of become a catch-all term for these adult-sized footed pajamas. I suppose. Has that come from just the cosplay?
I think it's a fad stretching out of that sort of stuff. They became a thing. I think it's about
onesies is such a good term for
encapsulating
anything that's just one piece.
Yeah,
I suppose that it is recently on my radar in that all-encompassing sense.
That's a good point. It does link into, because it was a thing of you would put Hello Kitty in a tiger outfit costume thing, and it has just sort of the circle around the face so you can see the inside face, and then they'd be wearing something else, and you see it for Pokemon and stuff like that.
As a real gamer cosplay kind of just
that sort of arena. I think it particularly Japanese sort of style thing of things they used to do to character mascots. But I have to say, I want more merch that is Bluey in the zebra onesie.
Oh man,
it's so cute because she's got the little hoofs.
Yeah,
so which makes her hands so much.
I'd settle for Bingo in the zebra onesie. That's pretty cute as well.
That one's never coming to market because any onesie that they give to kids gives them license to be absolutely bananas.
Right, gotcha.
Parents would be like, no, don't do it.
But you did say Bingo in the zebra onesie. How friggin' adorable!
Yeah.
We missed that.
Man.
It's so funny.
Honestly, we have.
There's another one of your Joe Brum, moment for the 4-year-olds.
Yeah, it's just sort of shuffling in and looking down and flipping the nose up by tipping her head.
Happy as Larry.
Yeah.
For Jack's 3rd birthday, I want to say, we were away, and so we had to take his presents all with us, and we got onesies for all of us. He got 2. He could either be a horse or a pig, I think, and then we got one that would fit Ali and one that would fit me. And same thing, because he was so small, it was just drooping off of him exactly like the way. And just, the horse head would just be covering his face. It fits a bit better now, but it's one of those things. You bring it out, he doesn't quite go Bingo crazy, but then he demands, he's like, Mummy Pig. I'm like, buddy, I know what you're saying, but I'll refer back to this in a few years' time when you're like, and Mummy's just goes, yeah, right, I'm the pig. And she goes, puts the costume on.
And mums don't get birthdays.
Yeah, that's right. I think the cutest moment for Bluey is when they're out the back of the shed and she's doing
yeah.
Was there a medium one at the shop? And she does that little thing where she
Such a
crosses her
cute
hands
moment.
over.
Yeah.
She's like, please, like a please.
Can you
sign.
ring them and ask them? Like,
Yeah.
Other things are at hand there, child. That's so
We are
so
hiding
good.
for our lives.
Focused.
So good. And Chili's like, Bluey. Like,
Yeah.
but it's so innocent. It's so good. That is a great moment.
And then we get the 4 years again, which is
Yeah,
that's
see,
pretty
yeah.
rubbing it
Now-
in.
the
The second one
I
hurt
thought
me,
so.
like-
I thought so. But if what Frank is saying is true, and there's like from the Bluey's big play,
There's a bit of
and
animosity still.
there's a thing that kind of gives the back and
Some
forth a little bit
context,
more
yeah.
background.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
Chili's not an unreasonable person. We know that from just getting to know her through the course of the show. And so I thought maybe there is something behind there. And if that's supported by the
Yeah.
big play, then I'm willing to grant her a little latitude. I've decided.
Yeah, see, that's still the line in a very emotionally charged episode. That's still the one, like when she says it at the door, you go, okay, fair.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
part of that is the narrative,
It's the
explaining to us as the
exposition.
audience,
Yeah.
but also to the
Yeah.
girls. It's been 4 years, and then when it comes back around the second time, it just in the delivery, it just feels like there's it's been 4 years. Like there's just that little bit of
She's still hurting.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
And does
she
that
probably went there and maybe didn't even mean to.
yeah. It was
Right.
a gut
Yeah.
reaction type.
And
thing,
does that bring us to like have we sufficiently addressed the moment in the bath and the conversation in the bath that they have? Like, I might as someone who's not by any stretch of the imagination got anything to do with parenting, like I might tap
Chalk it
out
up?
of that conversation. But yeah, not a dad. Thank
There
you.
it is.
But that's so beautiful and well done. Earlier in the episode, talking about making it fit. Can you make my
Just
cheetah
not meant to be.
thing
not
fit?
meant to be.
And you know how you really wanted that more than
Yeah.
anything, and it's so beautifully done. It's very serious.
It's one of those moments leading into it. Like you look back at it now, and on second rewatch, you go, "Oh my god, all the signs were there." But when you're watching it that first time, your
First
focus
time.
is on the
Yeah.
craziness and the onesie and the hilarity.
I feel like
And-
I personally felt like I was blindsided by it.
Yeah,
I was like,
absolutely.
I was not prepared
Yeah.
for this. Yeah.
Is that how we have to say it now forever?
Sure.
Yeah, like it is a total blindside, and that's credit to the writers and the way that the whole episode is.
I'm willing to believe that
structured.
more together people than me were seeing the signs on first viewing, but I certainly was clueless to it until it completely hit me like a train.
I did hear Joe. I think it might have been with the Got to Be Done ladies, where they talked about this episode, and they said, "Look, that's obviously a pretty big topic. Is they're not trying to breach any privacy, but where did that sort of come from?" And he basically, without naming names, of course, he said, "Look, that episode is basically a tribute to someone."
Yeah.
Whether he directly knows them or they've someone related to Ludo that has experienced exactly. Basically, it's never really explicitly spelled out whether we're talking about infertility or child loss or whatever it is. And if it's either of those two, it's amazing that something like that exists in a 7-minute kids animation. Interestingly, I did do a bit of research. The red healers, which of course is what Chili and Brandy are, have a known
fertility.
They have fertility issues. That dog breed is known to have
Okay.
fertility issues.
Wow.
And the other sort of clue with that is right at the end where Brandy sort of says, "Look, it's hard seeing you," and Chili says, "I know."
I know.
Now, that in itself might hint to the fact that Chili maybe had issues with conceiving before Bluey was a thing. Like,
And we've done the show. We've spoken about
That's
the
right.
hints toward that in the past as well. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, we've done it again, boys, because here in Australia, I don't know, it's different in different parts of the world, but of course, Father's Day is around the corner as we're recording.
I was thinking about this as we brought up this episode. I was like, man, it's Father's Day.
Yeah.
We talked about this last year.
On
and
the,
this
in the
is,
other Father's Day episode. Yeah. So look, there's episodes of Bluey that hit, and then there's episodes like this that for me personally absolutely really hit. For those who might have just joined our show, I'm referring to the fact that I have experienced child loss. Before Jack has an older sister who unfortunately passed away with genetic complications. So to see, look, there was a time, honestly, but pre-Jack, where we, my wife and I, sort of went, what do we do here? Like, how do we? I don't know if recover is the right word, but do we try again, or are we just destined to be just the two of us? And so that moment of there's something she wants, but she just can't. It's not meant to be.
It's not meant to be.
I feel that in every fiber. Like, it's so funny, like social media and these sorts of things where everyone's like, here's pictures of my kids and here's what we did for book week and all this stuff. And all the focus is on that. And you don't hear about the people who are trying so hard to have that miracle of life, to bring a person into the world. And it's not even necessarily my situation. It can be just, what we're talking about with Brandy, just infertility. It's just not meant to be. And it's amazing.
There's anything anyone can do.
That's right. It's amazing that the Ludo team can bring something like that. And let's be honest, it's a topic nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
And
and that's why we don't talk about it.
They brought
historically.
They brought it to a 7-minute kids episode and explained it in the bath.
Yeah.
More so than any psychologist or whatever I've talked to. Like,
And Chili's struggling with that in this episode because, she's got this, from an outside observer, this really happy life with these great kids and this great husband, and like we don't know the struggles that she's had, but like she wants to celebrate that and celebrate that with her sister, but that's difficult to navigate because Brandy's obviously had trouble, and that's the whole that's a complete reflection of just everything, like how you want to celebrate these other people's experiences and stuff, and then you've had these mountains to climb over, and they're putting it in a show and talking about it and unpacking it with young people. It's pretty amazing.
I really love as well while the bathroom conversation is going on, and that's dealt with so well by Chili, just explained, broken down. We've got this beautiful moment with Brandy being attacked and some of like Brandy's fake, oh no, like her playfulness. That's when it really becomes play as opposed to the horror movie. And it's this that is the heartbreak, because it's kind of like she doesn't want to be with him because it hurts to see somebody else who's got something that she so desperately wants. But at the same time, you kind of like, but you could be spending time with Bluey and Bingo, who's kind of this, you could be having some of that experience, but we understand that it hurts so much because you would be constantly thinking about how it's not yours to take home. That sort of whole thing. And I think the moment that is the crux for me is that shot looking between the arms as
it's Baby
Bingo
Race,
runs
Baby Race
away.
2.0.
But an adult in the POV is of an adult that wants something, rather than a baby that wants their mum.
Yep.
And it's just absolutely
no easy answers.
And I think I've said in a previous episode, like this one came just before Space, or maybe a couple before Space.
Oh, right.
So this was the episode where I had to get the tissue box out, and when so I think I said when it got to the end of Space, I was ready for that something horrible to have happened to for Mackenzie's mum, because they'd already set us up with this one, showing that they weren't willing to go there.
Yeah. And you can get that rolled up newspaper ready if you like, because we know that the very next episode was tradies for reasons we won't go into.
Yeah.
Reasons we won't go. When we do tradies, we'll talk about why.
Okay. I was going to shout that out.
Oh, you were? Oh, well, should we? Or
well, let's just say if you're watching tradies after listening to this episode, keep a close eye on the letterbox.
As I always do. Driving through anywhere where there's letterboxes is really, it must be painful for anyone with me, because I'm always judging people's letterboxes.
Oh, that's a good one.
that one's too small. You've got a really good letterbox.
Well, to be fair, we checked with you. We were at when we built the house.
To his credit, he did.
We were cycling through, and I was like, and Ali's like, "What about this one?" I was like, "I just let me check with Brendan.
Oh, man,
He'll know.
it's accessible. It's got a nice big A4 size slot. It's big. It's got a parcel drop drawer.
Yep.
Excellent.
Can you teach our local postie how to use that, PS? Because I haven't had too many parcels delivered in there
really?
just yet.
Have they had authority to leave on them? Are they?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't undermine my point.
Because, like a pro.
We're getting into the laughs, though. Is there anything else we feel like we should touch on in terms of the hard stuff with this episode? Or are we happy to go back to happy again?
Yeah, I'll leave that one to you, Frank.
I just didn't want to go back out if there was anything else.
It should be said again how you and Ali are my heroes, by the way, and we love you guys.
No, thanks, mate. And I feel a little bit responsible in that I'm probably the reason we delayed this one so long. To be honest, like, don't get me wrong, it's a hard subject, but it obviously has extra resonance for our family. So, yeah. I don't know what to say.
We were happy
I can't say anything fun at this moment. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, we were happy to. There's lots of other great Bluey episodes that we were able to sneak in between, so it worked well.
You know what we can do now, Brendan?
What can we do?
We could give some credit.
Should we? Is it
time?
too early? Do we want to talk about more of the funny things that there are so many of?
Do we want to go up and up?
Did we get all the funny stuff? I mean,
no, there are some more things. Of just
that
bingo.
Scene
Meow?
Yeah.
A little meow.
Honestly, as much as you'd love to give the MVP of this episode to Brandy, like in all aspects, bingo. You are a star. Like,
when she jumps out from behind the tree.
It's such a fun thing that she just becomes the onesie.
Yeah.
And she just really does.
And just gets into it.
And even, right at the end where they like the girls do the dance to distract Bingo.
Oh,
Hey, Bingo.
Oh, that dance. Do you know what else?
Like
Have you guys seen Stan and Ollie, that Laurel and Hardy movie that had because I don't know much Laurel and Hardy, but I do know Steve Coogan and John C. Reilly, and they played Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy.
Like personally? Or
you go way back.
Oh man, Coogan, numero uno. But they reprised this dance, and it was like a seminal moment in the movie where they do. I don't know. It felt a little bit like a wink to like a funny little dance that they used to do in those early, those early 20th century movies. But yeah, there was so many good, amazing moments. That dance is really cool, and the music is really nice. Yeah. And I'm just gonna smash out some funny moments before I forget them. You mentioned before when they were in the bath and they were juxtaposing that with
them playing together.
Playing together. That was a really cool moment to separate the kids like that, because Bluey's mature enough to have that talk with Mum. Bingo's probably not, but Bingo's the one that looks like Brandy. So there's that connection there. Yep. And so that was just so tidy. So tidy. And then just the chasing, and when they're doing the dance, that final shot,
and
they're all dancing and doodly doing, and then it goes back. And Bandit's still there,
still on his phone, but actually bobbing his head to the tune of the dance, which you respect.
There's another great bit when they run in from the car. You can see Bandit's legs underneath the car behind it, like so he's genuinely down for the count. Yeah. So I think this is between when he's like, why did you have to get a onesie? And he's like all bruised and hand on the screen and everything. Yeah. I think it's between that and when Bluey appeals to him and you got to help. Yeah. But they run inside for a bit, and you can see his legs underneath the car. He's just seriously down. And then when Bluey goes and says, "Hey, I got it," but she's gonna eat me. That's a Lion King reference for sure. Yes, when Pumbaa gets caught under the she's gonna eat me.
I do feel very seen when Bandit's just like on the ground, but he's doom scrolling. Yeah, because that's all the rules. That's the only personal time you have as an adult is when you've very briefly been tapped out of some sort of game. You've been told
trying
to leave the room
gear
or
the game toward being incapacitated for a bit.
Or like, you have to go into the other room to do this. And that's what you immediately do is you get your phone out and you start scrolling.
Yeah.
Because this is the only personal time you have. I'm like, that's the only thing you can do in that amount of time.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't look at my phone as much as I do, but it's kind of like, otherwise, what else do I do? I just
It's the world we live
there
in.
and like,
It's the world we live in.
oh man. But yeah, it's nice to have that reflected to me in a show. And so I don't have to feel maybe quite as bad.
Yeah.
Because at least there's a cartoon dog doing it.
Amen.
Speaking of cartoon dogs, is there a long dog?
There is.
Is there? I did not notice one.
I read about it. I haven't seen it because I forgot to look after reading about it.
So you were papari.
I cheated.
Wow, great way to win. Any kids listening? Cheating. It's the way to go.
It's the most efficient way to win.
Yeah, get there with minimal effort. Just rely on other people who have done it before you.
Yeah. You prepare, I cheat.
So you going to actually tell us, or like
just gonna leave it
you got to
there?
prove it?
I forgot.
Pretty much in that opening shot where they go to meet Brandy at the door, and there's the little side table, where you hang your keys and stuff near the door, and it's tucked under there. What does it look
nice.
like though, Brandy?
Isn't it in a onesie?
It is in a cheetah onesie.
No way. I think I did see that. At
Oh,
some point
now we
because
remember.
That bit I remember. I wasn't going to forget that bit.
I do love. I was going to say though, in terms of, it's not exactly a doggy treat, but I do love Brandy's lemon bag.
Oh, right.
Aunties have
Such
bags.
cool design.
It's just like such an
Aunties
auntie
do have bags.
like those over the shoulder bags, because that's what you.
They didn't need.
there was
The solid color would have done just fine. But no, a little like lemon
Lemon
pattern.
bag,
It's really nice.
Oh, I forgot to say as well, because that's where she's got to bring the bag because she's got the onesies in her. But
Yes.
that's another thing about like having, another furry life of just having these sort of strange adult guests and they bring you presents.
Yeah.
That's the exciting thing as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
That just
yeah,
takes
yeah,
me back
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
Maybe
overseas
that's-
relatives
maybe
or
that's
something
a big
like
part
that.
of the running to the door. I don't know.
I don't think so, but
Yeah.
it does take me back to like, oh yeah,
Being
that's what they
unfair.
do. They
Yep.
they be
give you
fun with
something.
kids while they give you something.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to think about the episode just being built around that idea of, oh, you bring a gift and that gift becomes
Chaos.
chaos.
And we didn't really close off that lovely email from Lauren. Thank you so much, Lauren. Obviously, if we've made if we've made nothing else clear, it's that parenting seems to me, not a dad, to be really fraught with lots of things. And I think not, of course, we wouldn't go into like huge details like this in people's emails, but Lauren was really kind to share a bit of her story. And
she found us when she needed a bit of a pick me up in
yeah,
her
oh
life.
boy,
and
like,
we were
and-
happy to oblige.
and-
Sorry about this episode, but
No, but like I haven't lived the parenthood experiences that you guys have, but I've seen it being a live-in uncle, and my sister Erin, and I'll say this to you, Lauren, my sister Erin is one of the most important people to me. And, she was, she had kids and found that, after you have the kid, there's a lot of stuff you have to do.
There's a lot of
And
stuff
it
going
ain't
on.
easy.
Oh, yeah.
And she found solace and in this podcast that she really liked, where she really felt like she was hanging out with the people. And so Lauren was so nice to tell us that she felt like, a bit of a pick-me-up, and she felt like she was hanging out with old friends. And that, when I read that, really warmed my heart to know that I could have, in some small part, been a part of something with you guys that was a part of something for someone that slightly resembled what my sister experienced it in that time. I just thank you so much for reaching out and said that. That meant a lot to me, and I'm really proud to maybe be able to be that for people. So I just wanted to say that before we completely, because what Lauren said had something to do with the episode. We talked about the episode and forgot to say thank you so much for your email. Well, I forgot to say it, but should we do the thing that we were going to say earlier?
Seamless transition. That's what that was.
This is Shameless Transitions is my thing. But today, and I'm ready, so you can't pay me out.
Here's the preparedness.
Here come the drums. Ladies and gentlemen, from the animation department, in the role of...
Scroll.
I've got it. Background artist for this episode. Our credit where credit's blue goes to Gemma Bailey.
Hooray!
Thank you, Gemma. You're obviously... Can we cut that out? And nobody said we have to keep it? All right, I'm cutting it out.
Damn, we'll let it go.
I think I just said we had to keep it. I've made it hard to edit out, so it stays. But I just kept talking there, didn't I? Gemma. You're obviously a legend because you're part of this show, and thank you so much for all you do. Woohoo!
Backgrounds. It'd be boring without them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it ever?
It needs to be there.
Backgrounds and lemons on bags. Well, was that a long one?
I think that's broken all sorts of records based on the numbers I'm looking at.
Maybe I'll have to snippy.
Excluding the time we spoke to, Joff Bush. You remember Joff Bush?
Yeah, I remember Joff. Do you remember talking to Joff Bush? Perhaps you remember talking to Joe Brum.
Yeah.
Maybe you remember talking to Joe Brum.
Yeah, I remember talking to Joe Brum.
I remember talking to Joe Brum and Joff Bush.
Mm-hmm. And Marion Kay.
And Mike and Greg. Yeah. These are all these amazing friends we have. Just these people that we catch up with.
We're saying that this episode's long. What are you doing?
Hey, we just love talking about Bluey and Joff Bush and Joe Brum
and all our friends who also love talking about Bluey.
but we can do it all together if you want. You can come. We'll all meet. Joff, Joe, Mike,
super
Greg,
podcast.
We're doing super quick. Mary, Kate will all have a big shindig down aisle 300.
Left at the Massive Podcast.
And if you're nearing an hour, you've gone too far.
Created and produced by Frank, Brendan and Marty. You can follow the Hammerbarn Project on facebook.com/HammerbarnProj, @HammerbarnProj on Twitter, or Hammerbarn_project on Instagram. Theme featuring Nibblings, Kaylee, Jade, Ashley and Reese, and PA announcements by brother-in-law, me, Josh. Thanks for listening, and remember to get down to Hammerbarn for cheap shovels.